Welcome to the Wind Down, where we come together mid work week to wind down. We come together to discuss various topics and then we free fall. We bond, we laugh, we cry, we heal, we learn. It truly is a sisterhood. So tonight's topics is surrounding grief and coping mechanisms. Okay, and what prompted this is I know someone who lost a parent recently, yet he has to go to work. But he does not belong at work right now. I mean, this guy is a mess. I mean, he's a mess. And rightfully so. He just lost a parent. And I think the law only gives you, I guess, depending on what company you work with. I think they only give you like 3 days, like to grieve. And I mean, of course, losing a parent going to take more than a month. It's probably going to take years, right? If ever. I have both of my parents, thankfully, and I have no idea what that feels like, but I do sympathize. But I sure don't think 3 days is enough for someone to grieve a loss like that, a great loss like that. So tonight we're going to talk about, are we allowed to properly grieve? Because it doesn't have to just surround work. It can also be your environment, your household, other responsibilities. When you talk to other people, they shut you down. No one's giving you the time of the day for you to vent and express yourself. Which is why it's important what we do. We have to wind down and to sit down. This is the safe space. This is where you can come and express how you feel. This is where you come and discuss what you're going through. Okay, and we are here to pour into you. We are here to listen because we do truly care. Okay, so first topic is: are we allowed to properly grieve? I see your hand is up, Shad. Thank you. Go on, Shad.
So
Shad, your hand.
generally, sorry, it took me a while to get off mute.
It's fine. No problem.
So so generally your job allows you 5 days of bereavement, but you can request an additional amount of bereavement if you need it. And you have 3 months from the time that your whoever passed to use however much allotted bereavement you need. And to answer the question, I personally have not grieved properly because I mean life has to still continue, unfortunately. I have a mouth to feed, so I made myself still continue to work, and that probably wasn't the best idea. I probably should have taken even more bereavement, if I'm being honest, because I blew through my bereavement. Like, I ate up all of it. I asked for extended bereavement and everything, and that still wasn't enough. Nothing can prepare you to lose a parent at all. Like, it's the worst. I don't wish it on my worst enemy. It's horrific. I'm still dealing, and me and him didn't even have a close relationship, and I'm like, you know, going through it. So it's horrible. Um, and even now, like I was over here counting on my fingers, like I wish I had one more month I can use bereavement. It's been hard. So I get it.
Sorry about the loss of your father, Shad. Ebony, I see your hand is up. We'll get to you soon. Thank you for your patience. Shad, I do remember when you lost your father, and I want you to know that I'm still here for you, like I always have been. And I think you're doing as well as you can. Okay, think you're doing as well as you can. Thank you for the breakdown. So you said you, generally speaking, you get 5 days of bereavement, but you can request, I guess, more time. But you have, you said 3 months in between the time the bereavement starts to request the extra allotted time. I'm wondering, is there a different way that they can do this with work? Because obviously, it's a business. So, I mean, are they hiring? Can they hire like a fill-in? You understand, like somebody who's there specifically for bereavement cases, maybe. Like, we're not sure how long you're gonna be with our company, but you are a bereavement hire, and we do have someone that's in bereave at this time. Maybe that could be some type of balance because We all handle things differently. I mean, look at you, Shad. You said you and your father didn't even have a close relationship, and it still hurt like hell. I mean, I can imagine it kind of seemed like it'll feel like you missing a big part of you because this person was a part of your creation. I think because I've even known people who lost their mother and they didn't have a close relation with their mother, but it was like, but that was my mama though, and she gone, and now they feel like they feel like they're alone. Can you explain how you feel, Shad, before we get to Ebony? If it's okay, I mean, if you know, it's totally fine if you be vulnerable and transparent with us, as you always are. I'm wondering how does if there's any words to express how you feel, can you please tell us, Shad?
So to respond to your first statement, there's some jobs that offer bereavement counseling. I know my job has um, that as an option. I don't know if it's a set amount of hours or a limitation on it because I haven't accessed it, but it's an option for me to use if need be. And then the funeral director, when you do the funeral arrangements, they offer you empathy counseling too. So I mean, the resources are there. And as far as how I feel, a plethora of feelings. Like, I can't even start with one emotion if I'm being honest. Like it's not, I don't feel an emptiness per se, but it does feel like a void. Um, but he didn't really like me, but there's things that I still wish I would have said to stand up for myself when he was here. Um, and I think I struggle more with the relationship my baby's not gonna have. Like she's missing a set and a half of grandparents. All she has is my mom, and so she's not gonna get to experience that. And she's met him and spent time with him a handful of times, and so she doesn't understand that like the reason why we haven't gone over there is because he's not here on Earth anymore. And so that's a tough thing. But then at the same time, I didn't really want her around him because he would say hateful things about me. Um, so I'm a mixed bag really because I'm grieving over the things that he didn't give me, and then I'm grieving over the things that I didn't have, with him for my kiddo. And then the fact that I'm also upset that a lot of the things that happened over the years between me and him were just unresolved issues. So, yeah. So now it's more of a personal thing that I got to deal with, now that he's no longer here. So therapy, man, she been on me. She been on me.
Wow, that's a lot to digest, Shad. Thank you for your vulnerability with us. Thank you so much for sharing. It's interesting to um, pick your brain and see how does it feel to lose a parent, especially a parent that you wasn't even particularly close to, and you can still have hard feelings. Um, have you thought of writing letters to your father to express those things that you never was able to express? Maybe it could help.
So, not to cut you off, but what's crazy is that I've done that endlessly. I used to write for a magazine actually, out here, and I'll probably share the link with you to the magazine. But I started writing for this magazine, I want to say in 2015, and most of what I wrote were letter and diary entries to him. Yeah.
Wow, amazing, Shad. I can imagine that you've been writing for a magazine. It's a shock to hear though. Like I didn't know, but it's not hard to believe at all. So you said that you used to write like diary entries, but have you tried that since his passing? You know what I mean?
I write every single day. Whether or not it's intentionally about him, I'm not sure. Maybe in my subconscious mind, I haven't really thought about it because I literally write every day, and I don't always know exactly what I'm feeling when I'm writing. So that's why I said maybe in my subconscious mind. Because I get up out of the middle and I could be dead sleep. I'll get up in the middle of the night and pull out my journal and start writing. I get up in the morning and I write down my feelings. Before I go to bed at night, I write down my feelings. I keep a journal on my nightstand like it's a big deal. Um, I write everything down, like everything. If I forget something, just anything at all. Like I have a journal for literally everything, every thought. And I don't know. But that's definitely something to think about. I probably have written about him and just didn't think about it like that. But now I need to because a lot of some of my entries have been a little on the dark side. So maybe that's what it is. That's me processing the grief in a different way. Um, but yeah, I write every day. I don't need today. So yeah.
Wow, what a way to learn yourself and to study yourself, that to write your feelings, how you feel every day, whether it's good or bad. And I was asking you, have you written to him like in with intent, so you don't have that to grieve with on top of the natural grief, right? So a few years back, I read a book called Letters My Mother Never Read. And in this book, the daughter is writing to her mother, but from a happy place. Well, she's grieving certainly, but her mother had a great relationship, and I think her mother passed in a house fire, I believe. It's been a long time since I read this book. Thank you, The Odyssey Online. Okay, if anyone want to check Shad's writing out, she wrote for The Odyssey magazine. Wow, great. And I love that book too. It's called The Odyssey with Circe and all that. That was one of my favorite mythical stories to follow. But um, I digress. To go back, letters my mother never read. I love how she wrote to her mom, and you can tell it brought her a lot of peace. Even though she knew her mom wasn't necessarily reading them, but she would just write to her mom, like, Mom, today was really hard. Like, me and my daughter, we went to go do this, we went and did that, and yada yada yada. Like she's writing to her mom, like her mom was still there, kinda, and telling her mom about her day and what her plans are for the next week and things like that. So I'm not suggesting you do the same, but perhaps if you were to write letters to your dad with intent to heal the wounds that he never was able to while he was here, or to say some of the things that you wanted to say, like to stand up for yourself, that may help with your grieving process, Shad. Okay. And again, thank you for sharing with us. Abby, I'm not sure if you remember what you had to say. We've had you on hold for a while, but thank you for your patience, Ebony. Totally appreciate you. Go on.
Um, I feel like when it comes to grieving, especially us as adults, like we have other responsibilities, work being one. Um, and I think every company is different with that. I think with my company, um, immediate family, mother, father, stuff like that, you get 2 weeks paid bereavement. That you could take off. It's still not a lot of time, but it's apparently more than most companies give. Um, a homeboy of mine, he he lost his father, and they started rebuilding their relationship towards his father's in the days that he cherished or whatnot. But he was just like, I didn't have time to grieve, and he was like, only time I had to grieve is when I went to therapy. He was like, that's the only time I got an hour to sit and talk to this therapist and get out all my feelings, and they helped me process it. And he was like, that's how I was able to grieve the loss of my father and probably get through it quicker had I not went to therapy. Because again, like you said, he got kids, he got a wife, he got a job. You got to do all this, but we have to make sure we take time for ourselves. even if it's just one day for 1 hour a week. Um, it's still time to take. I haven't lost any parents, but I remember when I lost my grandmother, I was in like seventh grade. I didn't know how to process that. Like I got up and went to school the next day because I that was the first person close to me, and I just did not know how to process that. And then it's like my mother, my aunt, my uncles, they've lost their mother, so I can't be more sad than them. You know what I'm saying? So, um, but the following year, for a different reason, my parents put me in therapy, so that helped. Um, so yeah, I think we just have to force ourselves to take that time. Even like I said, if it's just one day for 1 hour out of a weekend, if you can get a therapist, because you could, just openly talk to them, and then they can help you through all those emotions, all those feelings, everything that you're feeling.
Wow. Thank you for that, Ebony, and sorry for loss of your grandma. Um, you were saying that you felt like you couldn't. Were you saying that you felt like you couldn't be more sad than your mother and her siblings because they actually lost a mother and you lost a grand?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I was like, I know, and I was close. All of us were all very, really close to my grandmother, but it was just like I'm sad. And then I look at, I guess at that age I took in how would I feel at that age if I had lost, my mother, because my mom and her siblings, they lost my grandmother in their 30s. So they were still fairly young. Um, but I just didn't, and they consoled us and we consoled them and all that stuff. But it was just like, and then I always take on the role with me being, I'm not the oldest grandchild, I'm the second oldest, but I'm the more responsible one. Like I took on that role. So I don't know, at that age. And then it took me going to therapy because when I lost my grandmother, I strayed away from my other grandparents because I'm like, they gonna go at any day now. I don't want to be, so I kind of strayed away from my grandparents, and um it really took me going to therapy to realize, okay, this is a part of life. Because again, this I was fairly young when I lost my grandmother. This is a part of life. That's when you have to make the most of the moments that you do have with these people. And like right now, my mother's father in 2005, they told him that he wouldn't live another 3 years, and my grandfather just passed away 4 years ago. So we had all that time, and I'm excited right now. My grandmother Monday just turned 88, and her husband, my grandfather, he turns 90 next month. And had I stayed away from them this entire time because of the loss of my first grandmother, like I would have missed so much. So, um, so yeah, so that was just my take on it as a young. I'm like looking at my mom and my uncles and my aunt, and they are like broken, and I'm like, I think I went into what can I do to like fix this. I didn't ignore my emotions, but I don't think I felt them as much. And then when I did feel it, I hid it from them, and I hid it from my brother and from my cousins because again, I was the oldest one, so it was a lot, but I did grieve the loss of my grandmother. It was just different. It had I probably been in therapy and dealt with it more, because when I went to therapy, I was dealing with something else, and that was just a small piece of it. But yeah,
Wow, Ebony, you gave a whole different perspective on this. Thank you, Ali. I see your hand is up. We'll be with you soon. Thank you for your patience. You couldn't properly grieve for various reasons, but what stood out to me the most is you felt that you had to keep it together due to you being the second oldest or the most responsible grandchild. So, does grief change based off of responsibilities and family dynamics? Because You allowed other people to grieve at the cost of your grief, Ebony. Even though you were able to grieve and process better when you went to therapy, that took a whole year for a separate reason for you to get there. So for a year, you kind of took the burden from everybody else. But even though you were very young, I mean, seventh grade, you were like 11, 12. So you were fairly young too, but that took a lot of emotional intelligence and emotional maturity to say, hey, their family is young. My mother and her siblings are young. They definitely wasn't expecting to lose a parent at this age. Let me go ahead and take on a bigger load for everybody so they can grieve better, even though you wouldn't necessarily be able to grieve. And I'm happy that your grandfather was able to live much longer than what they said. A happy birthday to your grandmother. And um, I'm happy that you did not let that keep you from reconnecting with your grandparents after you lost your grandmother. I can understand why you didn't want to keep going back because you, like you said, well, they're gonna go too. And that is something that we start realizing as we get older and start losing people. Like, hold on, wait a minute, this is a part of life. Like, wow, one day I'm gonna lose you. Yeah, that is scary. Ali, I know your hand is up, but since we're still going on about Ebony, let's go back to Ebony real quick. Yes, Ebony, your hand is up.
I was about to say, so around that age, I was still like heavy in church. Um, and a lot of times my grieving came out in church. My mother was right there to, help me through it. Like if I just randomly bust out crying, like she understood why I was crying, then she would be crying. There would be a whole thing. But we would have, small talks with, our pastor and stuff. So I did have, like, my family wasn't, they didn't, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they were there for my grieving when I needed it or when I let it show, basically.
Wow, I love the fact that you and your mother were able to grieve together and that your mother understood why you were grieving and she allowed you to grieve. I don't think some of us are allowed to grieve. What if you grew up in a family that doesn't allow you to grieve? I think that's a possibility too, is that some people not allowed to grieve based off of the family dynamics. And like we grew up in a family that's emotionally unavailable and they don't talk about their feelings. And so they dang sure not gonna let you come and talk to them about your feelings. They don't like the vulnerability of it. Thank you again, Ebony. And I do hope you're doing better. Alia, I know your hand is up, and then Shad will get to you. Thank you.
So recently, I think some of y'all know, if not all of you, so I'm just going to kind of repeat it a little bit. Like, I lost my father's sister, my aunt, recently this March. Um, I don't even think I'm processing that fully at this point because it just happened so quick and sudden. Of course, I didn't really have too much of a close relationship with his family like that. But I did remember losing my grandfather, my mother's father, when I was 16, and it was just hard. You know, people don't understand that. Even though you want to be there for people, I kind of was the opposite. I did not want everybody in my house, in my face. I didn't even know who these people were. Uh, I kind of looked at it in a different way, like, where were all you people at when he was alive and kicking and was halfway in his right state of mind versus now that he's gone, y'all show up or, um, you know, I'm sorry for your loss or, all these major arrangements and stuff like that. It was kind of like mind blowing me too, because you just don't think about certain things in that nature. But with my recent loss of my aunt, I had to sit there and just be a fly on the wall just about because I had to sit there and see a couple of my cousins break down, fall out, just about hyperventilating, you know, due to my aunt passing. Um, Tried to be a support system, which was a little hard in itself. But, grief is just so complex, and I've seen it since I was a kid, like in the second or first grade, you know. So I just try to deal with it the best way possible. I barely cry sometimes, you know. So I think going to therapy is great, or just at least having 10-20 minutes by yourself as well every day, because you're never going to get over it. But, just at least processing it the best way possible could help. That's really all I had to say at that manner.
Well, thank you for sharing with us, Alia. Sorry about the loss of your aunt. I do not recall you ever talking to us at the wind down or to sit down about that. But I hope you know that you can. Okay. Definitely sorry to hear about your aunt. Seemed like you two were close. Now I heard you say something about family coming, even though they haven't been around, and sometimes it's distance. you know, or some of those relatives could have been distant relative in the sense of, well, they're there to support their mother and their father who was close to the person. And one way or another, that was still their cousin or their uncle. And we can get attached to titles. We can get attached to, well, that was my uncle, that was my cousin, or and from what I heard of him, he was a good person. But you seem like you just didn't really genuinely want to be bothered, and that's okay. Now you said that you don't cry much. Is that a defense mechanism, Alia?
You know, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Um, I think it is because, growing up, people used to use sat again. Depending on your environment, that's what defines you and shapes you in a way. People think when you're nice or sad, they it's good to just throw it in their face all the time, or continually hurt them even worse when they're already down, or think it's a laughing matter. And I don't think it's funny. Somebody's crying because they lost their um not even a parent, just lost their toy or their keys, and they think it's funny. And I don't think things like that is funny, because you don't know what they're dealing with mentally prior to something so small and insignificant or even major. So I think that's where I get it from. Like, you were not only called a punk, but now you think it's funny. And I don't think it's funny at all. So I try not to cry, at least around people, um, because of my memory of how people reacted to that, you know?
Wow. Wait a minute. Shad, I know your hand is up. Be with you soon. Thank you for your patience, honey. Alia, did you just say that there's people in your family who will laugh at someone who's crying? I have to get this correct here.
No, I'm serious. Yeah. People in my family, people in the street, yeah. I've seen it. Mostly from my family. People in the street at least will say, "Oops, I didn't know that so that happened to you. My bad. I thought you was just playing crying, but you dead serious. Aside from being a kid, grown folk, they thought you was just playing crying, like you, but they were dead serious, like, oop, my bad. But no, people in my family, yeah, they think it's funny when you're crying or upset and sad like that. Yeah, that's why I just don't be around them much.
Wow, I cannot imagine being in that type of environment. That's like torturous. Crying is a natural human ability, and there's this saying that I learned many years ago, being at a baby's funeral. On the back of the thing, the baby's aunt wrote, um, "Do not be afraid to cry. It does relieve the pain. Remember, a flower does not grow unless it gets some rain." Okay, so Ali, I hope one day and soon that you're able to grow your flowers by being able to express yourself without care or concern what others think or feel. Okay, and I'm not sure if you're standing up to these people, but they have no right to not allow you to grieve. They have no right to laugh at you for expressing yourself. They have no right not to allow you to cope. Shad, I see your hand is up. Thank you, Shad. You can go on.
So very similar to Aaliyah. I do most of my crying by myself when the whole house is asleep. Um, and I feared for a long time when my grandma passed, I had a fear of grieving because because of that, because I grew up in a family that was mostly emotionally unavailable, and they would look at you strange if you had any kind of weird reaction to stuff. And so I would just not. I just wouldn't. And I feel like I feared grief because of that. And I also feared grief because then it would be like the reality that it really happened and she's really not here. And this is a real thing that you got to go through. Um, and when I ended up going back to the church that her service was in. And it was my aunt's church at that time. Um, ended up going back, and very similar to what Ebony was saying, I had a whole breakdown. I don't even remember what the service was about. Like from the time I got in the church, like everything was a blur. Like I literally sat in the pew crying the entire service. Never got up, never participated in any the whole time. And my cousin sat with me the whole time and just rubbed my back. And that was probably the most comfort I got from my family in like years. Just that. And yeah, and I think that was the last time like I really cried about my grandma. Um, yeah.
Wow, I am so like distraught just to hear that neither of you, Alia or Shada, have ever been able to truly cope or grieve due to family dynamics. What does that stem from? I really wonder, is this a culture thing? Alia, where are you from? And Shad, where are you from? This has to be that's not common.
And not to cut you off, lady. I'm from California. I live in California. I'm from California. I was getting ready to say too, I feel like if I meet someone genuine and the love is genuine and they hug me, I might just break down. Like honestly. Like I don't get that. I don't get that. Even from like the people in my family, I don't get that. So a lot of that is missing on my side. So
Well, honey, you're gonna be crying with me because whenever I see you, you definitely getting some good hugs from me, baby. Okay? Touch is healing. Yes, Alia.
Um, to answer you, I'm from Connecticut, but there's so if you know like California, how they say South Central, Oakland, the Bay, and all the other stuff, like, or the five boroughs of New York, because I actually live an hour outside of those five boroughs. Um, Bridgeport, New Haven, and Hartford are really like Chi-Town and Detroit, if that makes sense. Actually, I think some semi worse, but that's to be debated. I It is a cultural thing. I do feel like you hear this mostly with black people in a way, especially when they have not healed themselves from something that happened generations prior, or they don't want to accept the fact that there's something wrong within them. um but that's near here or there, but yeah, it's you know I think it is a cultural thing. But family members are just mean, and be blessed that you don't have to deal with those things, whoever you are or wherever you are, because we are recording. And you know but I'm just one of those people who are less fortunate to have family members that will extend themselves in a genuine way, because I know they really don't. And for me, that's just me. Uh, you know.
How unfortunate. That's not right. That really isn't right. But it's stemming from somewhere, and I feel bad for the people who do it, because they're not allowing themselves to heal or grieve properly either. So that was taught. That's why I'm asking: is this a cultural thing? Because naturally, that's not how human beings are. And Ebby, I see your hand is up. We're gonna get to you soon. Thank you. Um, Touch is healing. If you put a sick baby next to a healthy baby, skin and to skin, the sick baby will get better without the healthy baby getting sick. That right there is that's a natural phenomenon. Okay, it's a natural phenomenon. That means that we naturally can heal one another. Okay, we naturally are meant to heal one another. And if anyone goes against that, it's unnatural, right? So, where is this stemming from? Where is this coming from? Abby, I see your hand is up. Thank you.
I think we kind of touched on generation things being passed down generations and either a pass it down or a wind down. But I think it boils down to family structure. And I think a lot of people that didn't get the hugs and the kisses and the I'm proud of yous and all that stuff with their kids now, they're making sure that they implement that into their daily lives. I even with my friendships, like I mean, I've always gotten it from my family, but even with my friends, like my close circle, when we see each other, we hug. We when we get off the phone with each other, we say I love you. Um, like that's a normal thing for us. Um, but yeah, it's just I think it's just the way the family structure, and unfortunately, some people just didn't have that in their family. They didn't get, and like you said, touch is important, like hugs and kisses from your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, even me and my siblings. Like, and that's just because that's the way my family is on my mother's side and my father's side. That's just the way that we are. Um, but I think those people that didn't get it when they were children, with them with their children, they are showering them in all those things that they didn't get. So they're breaking that generational curse and putting in an effort for things to be different than how they grew up, and that looks different from person to person too. Something else we touched on last week. It looks different from generation to generation. So eventually everybody will get there, hopefully. But it's sad for the people that, they don't have that from from their family, or they don't know where to go to get it. So,
Very valid points there, Ebony. Thank you for that. This generation is doing better than the last generation in most ways. Now, is it because we're learning from the mistakes of the past, right? The mistakes of the last generation. That's only going to happen if you're aware. That's only going to happen if you're talking about it. So I want people to stand up for yourself, Alia. You don't have to be violent. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be rude to say, hey, listen, I have a right to grieve, and you need to learn how to as well. What type of person laughs at someone who's grieving? So obviously, those people have some type of mental something. Definitely emotionally immature and lack emotional intelligence. No offense, Alia, but they offended you. So we have a right to stand up for ourselves. What type of satanic energy is that? To laugh at someone that's crying. That is satanic. I rebuke that in the name of Jesus. May you be able to grieve properly, Ali. I want you to be able to cry freely, okay? Crying is healing. God gave us the ability to cry for a reason. That is how we can cope. That's another way to release our grief. Now, of course, tears is there to keep our eyes moisturized. That's not why you cry. That's not why you cry. You're not crying to give your eyes moisture. You're crying to grieve. You're crying to release. And here it is, you have somebody that's laughing. Jesus. Now, I didn't grow up in the most nutrient household myself, you know, and maybe that's why I'm more nutrient now because I'm giving more of what I didn't get and what I know that I needed. But what happened to those people who didn't get it? They didn't learn from nothing. Let's say if the past generation before us didn't get it, what the generation before them gave them, what did they give them if they didn't get it, right? So how did they not learn to give differently? They're following the same exact pattern, which is why I'm happy Abby said, due to the fact that this generation is doing better, we are going to break that generational curse, whatever the generational curse is. Okay, incest, uh, lack of being able to grieve, emotional, unavailable. Like what you have children for? Why am I here? Seemed like I was a mistake. If you can't allow me to express my feelings, you must have just got pregnant one night. And by the time you found out, it was too late to get rid of me or something. Because that's just not natural. Now, shout I see your hand is up. Thank you. Yeah.
So, um, just to, I guess, respond to some of what Ebony was saying, I do feel like I, in the past, used to look for love in all the wrong places because I didn't have it at home. And I used to meet people and get into these situationships and all the wrong relationships and or friendships because I was trying to fill a void. And I would even say that I spiraled at some point, and I walked myself to um, a behavioral clinic because I just didn't feel safe with myself. And um, somewhere along the lines, I decided, why don't you just have a kid? A kid will give you unconditional love. And, you know, just long story short. And so I went through that process too. So I made a lot of brash decisions, I want to say from high school to maybe like my first couple of years of college, based off of just feeling like, okay, I'm not getting this at home. I'm reaching out, trying to make friends. Some of the friendships I've made are wrong because I'm not thinking basically rationally, about what I'm doing. I'm just looking for something, anything, whatever it is, just whatever it is, whatever it is that needs to come to fill this void that I have at the moment. And I've gotten so much better about that. Um, but it is something that I did go through for a very long time. And what she said about feeding my kid what I didn't have, like, oh yeah, that's why she's spoiled now. That's why she got over 500 to it.
I'm very proud of you, Shad, that you're doing better, especially being able to pull from something that you didn't have. So you kind of have to pull from nothing and then
Right.
uh, give it to your daughter. And I can totally understand what it's like to go and seek love from the wrong places because you really didn't have any healthy examples of it. But you knew you couldn't get it at home. So that made you more vulnerable to the world, Shad. That definitely made you more vulnerable.
Exactly. And I'm an empath, and I found myself attracting a whole lot of narcissists, a whole lot of gaslighters, a whole lot of manipulative behavior. Um, I didn't see it then. I mean, I definitely see it now. I didn't know the power I held then, but I definitely see it now.
Wow. So with learning all of that, you're making better decisions, which goes into what Ebby was saying. That
Absolutely.
yes, what goes into what Ebby was saying that this generation is going to break a lot of curses, and that's going to free your children, my children, our children, from the same trauma that we had to heal from. It doesn't mean they won't have any. Hopefully not. I think we're doing a pretty good job of protecting them from what we know this world could be like, and then giving them the tools to navigate this world, even though we really didn't have those tools when we were growing up. So, where did you adapt and get those tools from, Shad? Is it because you're an empath? What made you be able to say, "Hey, my daughter's going to have this, and she's going to have that, and she's not going through this"?
Because you have to pull that from somewhere if you want different. And hey, baby, what do you want? Okay, I had to pull that energy and that strength out of somewhere because I wanted more for her, and I want more for me. In order for me to get more for her, I have to have more for me. It starts there. So there's that, and then finding out that I am an empath and learning more about myself and building my self confidence and things like that also helped. So
Thank you for sharing with us, Shad. I'm definitely happy that you were able to gather, even if it was from nothing, to be able to give your daughter a better chance of surviving in his life and being able to actually be human and express herself and be able to cope and grieve out here. Because no matter what, we're going to lose people, okay? And we should be able to naturally be able to grieve that, especially with having to work or having to have different responsibilities to maintain. At minimum, allow people to grieve. Minimum. Ebony, I see your hand is up. Thank you. Go on, Ebony.
I think people that can identify from their past what wasn't healthy, um, and actually go through the process of healing and dealing with that in a healthy way, dealing with that trauma in a healthy way, they have the they have more capabilities to make it better for themselves or their offspring, or as far as relationships, because this type of stuff affects relationships as well. um they can make, they make the choice to be better, to do better, to put in the effort to change things. But I think it starts with identifying, your trauma or what you feel you was lacking, and dealing with that in a healthy way so that you can progress.
Very valid points there. Great observation, Ebony. Wow. So you had to identify what the issues was, and then you had to grow from them in a healthy way. Obviously, it had to be healthy because if not, you wouldn't change it into something positive. Like allow your children to express themselves and not shutting them down when they come to you about when they could be crying or whatever. You allow them to express themselves in a respectful way, of course. I mean, I think allowing your children or allowing people to be able to express themselves opens up for a lot of things: healing, understanding, peace. This person won't feel like they don't have a safe space to talk about their feelings or what they're thinking or what they're going through. I mean, can you imagine being a kid? And I can't imagine being a kid. Well, I can because I wasn't able to express myself. But now that I know how that feels, I definitely want to give my children the ability to express themselves. Because I will express myself regardless, but it will always come with consequences. Okay. And due to those consequences, I will restrain my expressions. Or sometimes just wouldn't express much at all because it'll frustrate me knowing what's going to happen if I say too much. That was a term that they used a lot back in the day called fast tail. And baby, when I tell you I hate that term right there, show fast tail. Like what? How am I being fast? What? 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 Why does fast feel like you calling me a whore? I don't know. I could be wrong, but that fast tail term back in the day, that was to me meant to shame and degrade the girls in the family. I really because they never really called the boys mannish, but the girls in my family was quick to be called fast with your fast tail, and you'd be like, "How am I fast? I didn't even do nothing. All I did was try to tell you that this is what I wanted and I didn't get it, or this is how I feel about the situation, but I gotta be a fast tail now." I thought fast tail meant I wear something very revealing and just strutting my stuff in front of grown men or something. And I don't do stuff like that. So how am I being fast at this time? I'm just trying to figure that out. And I feel like that term was used to shut our feelings down. Go on, Shad. Your hand is up. Maybe your hand was still up too. I'm not sure if that's from the past though. Okay.
I I used to feel guilty and embarrassed about showing emotion a lot too, because I used to feel like the reaction because of the reaction that I got, I used to kind of feel like, let me not cry because I'm gonna get judged, or they're gonna say something, or they're gonna be like, why are you crying? Because that's like usually a reaction I get. I get like an attitude reaction when I'm showing an emotion of any kind that's not happy or whatever. I get like an attitude. Um, and it was like that a lot when I was growing up. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying now? Like, what happened? Like, what's going on? And then it'll make me feel like, okay, I can't open up to you because you're giving me a reaction. So then I would stop having a reaction altogether because I didn't want that to be the initial response they gave me.
Right, you didn't feel safe to express yourself. I mean, look how you was received. As soon as you even have any type of tears in your eye, what's wrong with you now? No, no, that's they like addressed you with contempt, kinda. They already seemed like they were
Yeah,
bothered. They didn't even know
exactly.
what.
Yeah, exactly. I still get that same reaction to this day. To this day.
I feel like I feel like some people may be jealous of our ability to be aware of our feelings. And instead of them learning from us, they shame us because they can't do it. I could be wrong, but that's what I'm gathering here. Is some people don't know how to express themselves, and when you do, you're shamed for it. Okay, Shad, I see your hand is up in Ebony. I'm not sure you still have your hand up from last time, Shad.
Oh, sorry. Let me take my hand down. I'm sorry. I forgot to put it
Oh,
down.
you
I'm
know,
sorry.
it's fine. Go on, Ebony. Thank you for your patience.
Oh, well, as far as showing emotions, I know as a child, like I was that kid, like my parents could start talking to me, and depending on how they start talking to me, I'm already crying. I'm already crying. Um, and then it was those times where I'm trying to explain something and my mother is cutting me off or she's telling me that I'm lying, da 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 da. Da. I just shut down. And that affects me today because like in my relationships, like when I'm angry, I can realize that hey, I need a moment. When I'm upset, I can realize that, hey, I need a moment. When I need to process, I can realize that I need a moment and I can vocalize that. But it's some instances where I just go quiet. And the people that I talk to a date, they hate it. They be like, you think you're doing this, but what you're actually doing is being avoidant. And then, and, and that's something I have to work on. But because of, um, growing up, that's what I did. It's still what I do today. Like if I feel like I'm about to cry, get up to upset to the point where I'm about to cry, which is usually when I shut down and go quiet. Um, you know, to me is me being quiet because whatever I say, you're not gonna hear it. But as far as in a relationship, that could come off as me avoiding of being avoidant and I definitely don't want to be that. So it's definitely something I have to work on. It's something that definitely came from my childhood, just me trying to explain myself and I constantly get told that, I'm telling a lie or I'm being secretive or whatever the case may be, and then I just shut down. So it all of that emotions and talking stuff, all of that carries on into more than just from your family dynamic, but then in your everyday dynamic dealing with mainly relationships. I think we carry a lot of our family trauma and childhood trauma into relationships, and we have to identify that and work on it.
Very valid points there, Ebony. Wow. Uh, can your childhood trauma or family issues impact your relationships? It could, I guess your friendships too could be impacted as well. Now, Ebony, say you have something to work on. Can you work on expressing that as opposed to just working on healing that wound? Can you just work on expressing that to your mate or your friends if they don't understand why, hey, I shut down the other day when we was talking because that's how I handled stress when blah 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 say blues are blue. You know what I mean, Ebony? As opposed to just trying to clip flat out, just heal that wound. Because then you're gonna be trying to heal that wound while also altering how you deal with stress.
I don't think it's a wound that I need to heal. I think I need to, with me, I need to recognize that that's what I'm doing. Like, cause when I'm in the moment and I'm doing it, I don't know because it just comes so naturally. But lucky for me, I've been talking to people that be like, hey, so we were having this conversation and you just stopped. Like they really good at pointing out, and I apologize and be like, yeah, I need a moment. Let me get off the phone, or let me go for a walk or something like that. But when I'm in that moment, I don't recognize that. Yeah, I just shut down. Like it's like because it's so quiet, and that's how it was when I was younger. I would just go quiet and just shut down. So it's just a natural reaction between me versus like if I'm angry or upset, I can hear that. But my shutdowns are very quiet. I don't even realize it until who I'm talking to, or if they come back to me the next day, be like, "Hey, you did this," And it takes, I've had people like I've talked to people that would like yell at me because I would do it, and then okay, yeah, I really don't want to talk to you no more. But since I'm dating better people now, I'm very selective on who I give my time to now. Um, they're they're very good at like pointing it out, and I know it's frustrating. And sometimes it comes off frustrating when they point it out, and sometimes they like, hey, so what's this about? So yeah, but I think I just need to. I don't know. I don't know if maybe I'll get to a point where I recognize it, but lucky for me, I have people when that does happen, they point it out that I'm doing it. And then I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. Let me go regroup.
Wow, the emotional intelligence and emotional maturity that takes. Good. And as long as it's not hypercritical, I'm totally fine with someone pointing out something that I do. Just not don't be hyper critical. Like it's every single time it happens, you gotta tell me. Like no, no. Sometimes people have to give you grace too. Because if that's the case, you're gonna be always having to change something. You're gonna always have to be working on something if someone's hypercritical. Sometimes people just have to understand, hey, that's how they dealt with it at this time. You know, we gotta choose our battles because that can become overwhelming. But good thing you're open to constructive criticism and growth, Ebony. So that's good. But good thing that you said how how childhood trauma or family issues can go into how it can impact your friendships or your relationships. Can we talk about that for a bit? Because I think you can have a trauma bond with a friend, and that trauma bond could have happened because you're not getting what you needed from your family, so you go to this friend, and the friend doesn't even understand that that's why you came to them, and then all of a sudden y'all in some type of trauma bond as a friendship, and then when that friendship ends, it takes some time for you to realize that our friendship's supposed to be ended a long time ago, but we was only friends because we both was in a trauma bond. I didn't even know you could be in a trauma bond with a friend, but you can. You can be in a trauma bond with a friend. I think you can even have a soul tie with a friend. I'm not 100% sure on that though. Let me see. Can you have a soul tie with a friend? What do y'all think about that? Can you have a soul tie with a friend? Just a friend? Ebony, go on. Your hand is up. Shady, your hand is up. Go on.
I don't know what I was doing. I think you have soul ties with friends. My soulmate was actually a guy that I've never had a romantic relationship with. But he was my person and I was his. Like whatever you think soulmate is, that was us. But you can have toxic bonds and trauma bonds and all those times with friendships because sometimes people can come into your life at a certain moment and y'all connect on whatever's going on in your life in that moment and it could be something traumatic um and the friendship can either flourish into something beautiful or it can stay in that toxic or it can become toxic because once that grief is over or y'all have worked through that trauma, y'all might not be as close as y'all thought y'all were. So that's a possibility with friendships and any type of relationship. So you just have to, be able to, again, it's all about being able to identify. And then with us as women, for a lot of us, it takes us a lot to cut people that we care about off or create that boundary because we care so much, we take so much in. So
Good points there. I definitely know that I was in a trauma bond with a friend, and like you said, once I think once one person heals from that, and maybe one person still want to stay in it, and the friendship can end like that because you're trying to grow beyond that, and the other one is used to pain or comfortable being in that pain, and then they can try to keep you there, but you're already trying to go forward from that, and that can end um, the friendship. Now you say you had a soul tie to someone that you had no romantic interest or never been romantic with. Uh, how what makes you feel that this person was your soulmate? So soulmates can be non-romantic.
In our case, yes. Like he was my protector, I was his. Like when they say that whole connected thing, one person you think about the other one just calling y'all whatever show up. Like I have times where my depression gets the best of me and I go sit and hide in a closet and I won't tell anybody. And during those times, he would just randomly show up and he would come get me and he would grab me out of the closet and he would hold me and all this stuff. Like his fiance, when we first met, she was just like, "So y'all ain't never have?" I'm like, "Nah, that's my brother," you know. Um, but we were just, that close, and she didn't understand it until she was around us more too. Like I really can't, explain it to you. It's just a bond and a strong connection that we both shared. I was the one person that he wasn't afraid to be vulnerable with. Like he had his breakdowns and he wouldn't tell anybody, but somehow I just knew to call or show up. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, he was my guy.
You're saying was as the past tense. So you two are no longer in communication? I see your hand is up, Shad. We're going to get to you. Thank you.
No, he was yeah, he's not here anymore
Damn.
physically. Yeah. So
Sorry to hear that, Ebony. Damn. Well, I do hope you're doing okay, Ebony. And you have us. I know it's probably not the same thing, but we're here for you if you ever feel the need to talk about him, okay?
appreciate it.
For sure, honey. And thank you for your vulnerability with us tonight. This is a safe space. Shad, I see your hand is up. Go on, Shad. Thank you.
So this conversation is getting ready to take a turn because I want, I guess I want you guys to think about something here. So you can have a trauma bond and a soul tie with just about anybody. You could even have a trauma bond that turns into a soul tie, or a soul tie that turns into a trauma bond. You can even have a trauma bond or a soul tie with your own parents. And I feel like I have in or have a trauma bond with my own mom. Because, with a parent, you feel the need to protect them sometimes, even when they hurt you. That's still a form of a trauma bond. You feel guilty for setting boundaries with them and things like that. And I feel like I've been going through this back and forth thing for years where like I'm past it. I'm in a better place. I live alone. I'm good. But now that I'm living in a space with her, it's brought up moments where I do feel like I'm trying to shake this trauma bond, and the only way to do it is to get out of this environment that I'm in. Um, but yeah, so that's something else to think about.
Absolutely, because you just made me think about. Thank you for that, Shad. You said that a soul tie can turn into a trauma bond, or a trauma bond can turn into a soul tie, and it can happen with anybody. It doesn't have to be romantic. It doesn't have to be friendship. It could actually be within your family, which triggered the fact that, you know what? I think I had a trauma bond with my sister because she will always do things to hurt me. But I always felt the need to fix it, even though I knew that I wasn't wrong. But that stops today. Well, it been stopped, but recently she did try to do something to bring me out my happiness. We was out at karaoke, and she snatched the mic from me while I was singing. First of all, I don't think I have a terrible voice, but karaoke doesn't mean you have to sing well. It just means have fun and while you're singing, right? But she did that, and I didn't say anything. I just kept singing without the mic, right? And then she stood there and watched me, and she had this nasty look on her face, like she was disgusted with me, even though all I was doing was having fun. And it was one of my favorite songs. I love you like a love song, baby. I love you like a love song, baby. Who is that? Selena Gomez. And it's a happy song for me. So I stayed in my happy place, and I didn't address it. For one, it's my birthday gathering. Everybody here is having fun, and I didn't want to give her the satisfaction to even let her know that to even think that what she did affected me at all. It was highly unnecessary and totally toxic for her to do that. And I'm like thinking to myself, why did you do that anyway? Like, what was the purpose of you snatching the mic from me while I'm singing? Nobody in there was booing me. Um, Ebony, I think your hand was up. I think Shad hand is up from a previous one. Go on.
Um, I think our trauma bonds, and now that Josh said it was a trauma bond, it kind of was with our parents. Um, is a little harder to see until we get away from it. I know with me and my mom, the entire relationship, for the most part, especially in my adult life, has been a trauma bond. My mom was at war with pretty much everybody in the family except for me and my grandfather. So I felt compelled to stay where I was at, um, because of that reason. When me and my mom would get into disagreements and it would clearly be her fault, I would apologize because I didn't want her to feel alone. Um, when unfortunately my family came back together when my grandfather passed, and um, my mom, her and my brother relationship got back on track. Her and my aunt's relationship back on track. Like the family was good, so I could go. And when I told my mom I was leaving, it was this big ordeal. Like I told her, um, I think it was in like January that I was leaving. And when I finally left in March, we hadn't spoken. And, I tried to reach out a couple of times. Um, and she didn't want to hear it. And then when she would pass messages to my father, to me, it was basically for me to bring her back her key. So when I left, I handed her key to my father, and that was it. And me and my mom are just now starting to talk, but it's crazy. People outside looking in will be like, "You got to get up from under your mother. You need to get from under your mother. You need to get from under your mom. You need to go live your life." And it's like when you're in it, you can't hear it, especially when it comes to your parents. You don't want to hear it because it's like, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's my mom. I'm all she got. Blah blah blah. I need to be here. And people that I dated, friends, even my family members were like, "You gonna wake up and you gonna be and you want to have not live the way you want to live because you're here. You're up under your mother. You're tied up under your mother." And they would tell me, they was like, "We don't know why you didn't go off when you graduated, but you're of that age." They would be like, "Your mom will be all right. She'll figure it out. It's not your job to make sure she's okay." It's like you're supposed to take care of your mother and love your parents, especially when they can't do it for themselves, but go live your life until then. Um, and it took me to the age of, when did I move out here? 3, 4 years ago, 35, to leave. And I'm glad that I did, because I finally got that air to live my life the way that I wanted to. But yeah, trauma bond, soul tie to our parents is a little bit more. Is a little bit more difficult. Even setting boundaries with our parents is a little. Is that's kind of hard. Is harder than probably any other boundary you would ever try to set, because sometimes our parents can abuse that too. I know me and my brother, we collectively said down, it was like, hey, we not doing this and this and this and this for mom no more because she abusing it. And we just stopped, and like everybody said, my mom was fine. You know what I'm saying? She was fine. She figured it out. So, but yeah, soul time, trauma bonds, and boundaries with parents, that's a whole nother ball game that like is harder to deal with.
Well, Ebony, it seems that you always had to be the more mature and responsible person. I'm not sure if that's a role you took on or if it was placed on you, but I'm proud of you for leaving as well. And it seemed like your mom, if I can say respectfully, Ebony, seems like your mom was trying to punish you for leaving, which is why she like, oh,
She was definitely in her twenties.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She was definitely, because like I said, we weren't speaking before then because of things that she did, that I finally said, I'm not apologizing for things that you did to me that you feel like I'm in the wrong for. So that was a thing. Um, my mom is a whole nother, like, the whole emotional thing and accountability thing. Like, I'm glad that I can talk. Me and my brother can have these type of conversations because we can lean on each other. And we were just like, because he moved out. Well, my mom kicked him out at like 14, and then he moved away when he was in like his late 20s, early mid 20s, or whatever. He moved away because he was just like, I needed to go. He was like, I needed to get away from. It was both of his parents, my mom and his father. But um, sometimes you just have to move away so you can live your life, and it's not that you're neglecting your parents. You living your life and still loving them the same, but you gotta, sometimes you have to get away so that you can live your life the way you want to, because parents can become a hindrance. They can, especially if we feel like we're obligated. Like, I felt obligated to be there for my mom because she wasn't, you know, cool with everybody else in the family. Like, I felt obligated. Like, that role wasn't placed on me by anybody. I took it on because I felt obligated. And I didn't have to do that either. So, but there was people telling me this, and like I would get upset and be like, "What you talking about, man? That's my mama. Get away from me." But in retrospect, when you look back at it, it's like, okay, they were freaking right. But when you in it, you can't see it, or you don't want to see it, or you feel like you're abandoning the person that gave you life, the person that took care of you, all of that stuff, and that's not what it is.
Wow. I mean, to know that you had to do so much, not just for your mom, it seems for your family, Ebony. I'm happy you're in therapy too because you've had to hold a lot of grief in it. And not even just grief. I think you probably put a lot of things that you wanted to do on a back burner for your family, especially your mom. I wonder, is that a oldest child's thought process because they're the
I
oldest?
believe it is. I think you talk to all the older, like, and it's crazy now. Like, I see friends of mine with kids, or other people with kids, and they have like multiple kids, and their oldest child is like the other parent, And you hear a lot from them older children like, yo, when I get older, I ain't having no kids because they don't took care of, you know, their younger siblings. Like they don't really get to be a child. They gotta be in charge. They gotta mature a lot faster. So that's a common thing, I think, not just in black households, but in a lot of people households. The older sibling, especially if the older sibling is a girl, they take on they take on the family, you know, the head of the family role somehow, some way.
Yeah. I swear I don't want to do that with my children, even though I have boy first. I said, I promise you, I'm going to do the best that I can to make sure that they keep their own autonomy. And I don't want Noah to ever feel like he has to raise Cookie or vice versa. And now, sometimes I will say, baby, can you help mommy get through this or do that? But that was to make him feel involved with his sister. I don't want him to feel like he's being replaced or anything. But I do my best to make sure that don't happen. But they're young. My kids are so young. But I think we're gonna touch on that. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that more at the sit down this Sunday. We're gonna talk about how family dynamics have been and what we can do to make family dynamics better. Because Ebony, did that come to you naturally? I see your hand is up, Shad and Ali. We're gonna come to you very soon. Thank you for your patience. Real quick, Ebony, let me pick your brain real quick, and then we're gonna go on to Shad and then Ali. Now, did you feel that way before having to help with your siblings? Or did it start when you felt the need to protect your siblings and you always had to make sure that they were okay? And then that kind of will make sure that kind of will overlaps and overflow into make sure your mom is all right. Right, Ebony?
So with my mom, it was just me and my brother, and we're 2 years apart. So I didn't we didn't really have that dynamic. We pretty much grew up together. But as far as like the grieving, like I said, when my grandmother passed, um, I I felt like I needed to be, you know, I don't even know what the word for it is, but I took on the role of making sure everybody else was okay. And then with my mom, in my mid 20s, I took on that role of making sure that I was always around because she didn't really have anybody else. Um, so yeah, but so it wasn't things that were placed on me. It's just, you know, how you look at things and be like, okay, well, I need to be here for that, or I need to do this, or whatever the case may be. And then I'm the neutral person in the family. So that was always a thing. Like when everybody else was beefing, somehow I was the neutral person. Yeah, so it was a lot. But then like I said, once the family got back together and everybody was cool, it's back to being a mess now, but I'm not there, so I don't care. Um, yeah, that's when I was just like, okay, this is my cue. Time to go.
So it seems to me, Ebony, you're naturally a protector. Because even when you were talking about your friend, may he rest on, you said he was your protector. And then right after you said that, you said that you were his. Because when you said that he was your protector, I was thinking, okay, that's good. You finally have someone that protects you. And then you said, and I was his. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay, well, that's good, though. Don't get me wrong. Okay, Shad, thank you for that. Don't get me wrong. I like the fact that you both were able to, be there for one another. Like you said, you could be grieving or depressed a bit, and you'll go into the closet and to I guess have the freedom to. To me, it seems like that was your safe space, and he will just randomly pop up, and you. It's very rare to have that type of connection with somebody. So I'm happy you were able to experience that, Ebony. I'm happy for once you had someone protecting you, Ebony. Okay, we all deserve that. Did you want to speak, Ebony, before we go on to Shad and Alia?
Um, he was my emotional protection. And now that I'm older, like my brother, my cousins, everybody else, they've kind of taken on that role. So, and then physically, all the women in my family are protected by all the men in my family. So, that's never been a thing. But yeah, but at that time, um, he was my emotional safe space. I didn't have to say nothing. He just knew, and vice versa.
That's beautiful. And you also pointed out that he's your emotional protector. So there's different forms of protecting. Okay, valid points there. We're going to dig deeper into this type of stuff on the sit down on Sunday. Shad, your hand is up, and Ali, we're going to go to you after. Thank you all for your patience. Shad, go on.
Yeah. So, to respond to Ebony, I feel like she was speaking to me through her experiences. We did have some conversations earlier today about travel and me relocating. And my mom comes up in a lot of conversations because she's always in the forefront of like whatever decisions I make. And it's now more so because of my daughter. Um, I feel like if my baby wasn't in the equation, then I would make bigger moves. I also feel like, along with the trauma bond that I said, it's kind of like an on and off thing. There is forms of codependency in all relationships, not from me, but from her. And I didn't realize that before until I started going to therapy more. And my therapist kind of pointed it out to me because for a long time I thought that I was the one that was codependent of her. And I brought it to my therapist's attention, like, I think maybe I'm codependent. I think I need to work on this, this, and this. And when I started to paint the picture for her, she was like, yeah, no, I think it's your mom that's the one that's codependent of you. And she's needing you for certain things and wanting you to stick around for her. And she probably doesn't realize. And if she does realize it, it's because of where she wants you to stay. She kind of wants you to stay in a certain place um, for the betterment of her. Um, and so basically, what Ebony was saying about like living your life and things like that, like I have this fear, this real fear that if I moved anywhere outside of California, that it would ruin the relationship that my baby and
Ciphered that your mom is codependent on you, and you don't feel like you can make decisions without consideration for your mom. May I ask how many siblings do you have between yourself and your on your mother's side, Shad?
I'm the only child. My little brother passed away when I was 9. So um it's just me. What do I feel like I want to cry? It's just me. Um so it's just me and her. Um and so I feel like, because it's just me and her, she looks for me a lot, you know. And that's why I ended up coming to live with her too, because like she needed my help. I think she said she needed my help more so financially, but I think it was like deeper than that. Um, I think it was deeper than that. And she'll never unpack that. Like she'll never share that with me because she's not an emotional person. Um, so I think that she wanted me here for emotional reasons that she won't disclose. It brought her comfort to have us here. Um, and not, it brought me comfort at the beginning, but now I'm like, I think I've outstayed my welcome and it's time to go. For several reasons that I won't unpack here. But yeah, so now I'm the only child, and so a lot of that weighs on me. And then now with my dad being gone, it's like it's just me and her.
Wow, sorry for loss of your baby brother, Chad. We're here to talk if you ever want to. Okay. Um, I think only child should be studied. I think you all have a way different life than those who have multiple siblings. Because every single, when I kid you not, when I tell you every single only child, I think they call it only child syndrome. I kid you not. Every person that I've met as an only child feel the same way that you just explained the child. It's like y'all have the same dialogue. It's where I feel like I can't do this or do that because then my mom or my dad they're gonna be lonely. They're gonna be this or they're gonna be that. Like I feel like you only childs feel totally responsible for their parents. I think if you have more siblings, that responsibility is shared in a way. Like if your mom was to get sick, you know that it's expected of you to take care of your mother, not nobody else. But it's only one you though, and you could have had 5 kids. But if you're the only child, you're going to be expected, no matter what, to be there for your parents. And I think only childs have a bit of a different life than us who have multiple siblings. I think there's a study on only childs. Let me look that up. Only child syndrome. I'm certain
And
that's out there.
and not to cut you off, can I respond to that really quick before I forget my thought?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I got you. Go on.
So I do still, that's a real thing, 100%. I've researched it, it's a real thing. And I've lived in different places. And the reason why I end up here is because something always happens. So, like, I lived in South Carolina, I've lived in North Carolina, I've lived in Georgia, like, I've lived in different places. I went to school in South Carolina, I went to business school, and yeah, my mom will just freak out, and then I'll end up having to come back. And even when I was like living here, like me and kiddo had our own place, like not even 2 years ago. And um my mom kind of stayed at my house. Like she just every day she would be at my house. And I'd be like, "Hi mom, when are you going home?" So it's just like, I don't know. And then she came up with the idea for me to move here with her. But at the same time, she's tired of me. So it's kind of like it's becoming an oxymoron because she's tired of it, but she wants it here at the same time. Yeah, 20% high five. So I don't know. I'm at a loss. But let me read what she put up here.
I'm going to spread it out a bit. I'm going to zoom in on it. I think this is talking about something different than what we were just touching on. But most of the only childs that I know, I can tell people that are only child off the first meet most of the time due to this, what they're saying right here. The only child syndrome in adults refers to the idea that being raised as an only child can lead to certain personality traits and behaviors in adulthood. While there's no formal diagnosis for this, various sources suggest that only children might exhibit traits like independence, strong self esteem, a preference for a long time, and potentially some challenges with conflict resolution or sharing. However, it's important to note that many experts consider only child syndrome to be a myth and that individual personalities are complex and influenced by a multitude of factors beyond birth order. Now, I usually able to pick up people who are only children based off the alone time preference, right? Like we could be at a party. The person that's the only child usually come in. If they brung anything for the party, they sit on the table and they go find their own spot somewhere off in a corner or something. That's how I can usually pick out an only child. They don't usually come in talking to everybody enough. They immediately come and find a solitude somewhere in the big old gathering, and then I usually walk up and strike up a conversation with them. And since I'm so bubbly and highly spirited, if they don't latch on to me quickly or engage with me, I usually can figure out that they're an only child. And I'm like, "Are you an only child or a Gemini?" Hell, and they'll laugh and be like, yeah. How did you know? It's the way that you carry yourself. You have strong independence. You didn't even consider to talk to nobody you walk You legit walked in, found you a spot away from everybody, and you were cool with that because you're self-reliant, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you have to be the only child to be self-reliant. I just think that only children have a certain independence that they feel the need to have to have. They didn't have to. They don't have siblings that they have to share with, or that they can rely on for different things. So I feel like only children, or the only child, always have to have a fierce self independence because they have no one else to fall back on, especially if they lost their parent already. It's just them. So yeah, Alia, are you back? Shad, your hand is up still. Mm-hmm. Go on,
Yeah, I
Alia. Then
just got
Shad.
back.
Sorry, I think forgot to put it down again. My bad.
No problem. Thank you. Go on, Alia. Welcome back.
Mercy, mercy. So, two things. So, for Chat's situation, it really just reminded me of surprisingly Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original. When Carlton and Will was gonna move out, Uncle Phil jumped up, raised all that commotion, talking about, "Do you think life is a big orgy?" or something like that. And then when the apartment fell through, he had stood in the middle of the foyer saying, "Oh, I got my family back," hearing Will and Carlton argue, and all the other stuff, and told them, but prior to that, they can leave because he has a silver lining in his cloud, which was Hillary and all that. So that's exactly who I think of every time I hear parents say, "I want you to move out," and all this other stuff. And when it finally happens, "I don't want you to leave." What? Huh? So that's a lighthearted thing of it, I guess. I don't know. But, I'm the oldest child. I have a 10-year younger sibling. And to piggyback off of what y'all said, do I feel like I have to take responsibility? I was never the person that wanted to take on the responsibility. People forced me to take on the responsibility. And that's kind of where a large part of my anger and frustration comes in, because I would sit here and say, "My name is Bennett. I ain't in it. That got nothing to do with me," or it. I would basically try to recuse myself from the situation, and people stay trying to put me in it until finally I snap, and I'm just like, "Look, just because I'm the oldest, don't mean I have to be the parent here." And I remember one time, because I grew up with my grandmother, who is the youngest child herself. I said, she said something smart and off the wall to me. And I said, "Well, that's because you put me as this position. Every time I turn around, I would say, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. You insert me into it. So, is there a study on how or why people feel as though they should insert others into their problems? Because that needs to get studied too. Because I really feel like with a large portion of my immediate family, they love putting me into something that has nothing to do with me. And I don't know if that's part of, I guess, God's plan for my future, um, or what have you, because I have noticed that as well, that being in my maternal side of the family, people tend to always cry to me the most. You know, "Oh, I feel this way, I feel that way, tell me this," or call me for everything in the world. So I, I don't know. But that's all I had to say. I don't want to long wind the program.
Ali, I think you're a safe space for many. I mean, you seem very easy to talk to. I can totally understand. I don't think they realize that it can become a burden for you. But you're definitely easy to talk to, Ali, and you're in a safe space. So that could totally be it.
So I know that I am easy to talk to, but it's just certain things that I get frustrated when people draw me into it. Recently, what was it? Um, yeah, my uncle, once upon a time before I went AWOL, cuss out moment, he was talking to me and my grandmother, mostly my grandmother. I was just standing there trying to analyze the conversation. I wasn't giving feedback, wasn't going to try to do anything. Um, and but he kept looking at me. I'm just like, okay, why are you looking at me? And he said, because it's you, this, that, and the third. And I just said, whoa, 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 whoa. I kind of stopped him in the middle and I was just like, talk to her because this has everything to do around her. I have done A, B, C, all these, responsibility things that I should not have even had to do. Um, and yet and all still dragged me in it. So I be setting up boundaries, and when people just don't respect them, that's when my scales get tipped and I have to no longer be Aaliyah. I have to turn into Shaniqua and just act downright heathenish. So I I just don't know why people just draw me into their foolishness, especially when I really don't want to be part of it. But that's just me. I digress.
Ali, you may have to start setting better boundaries, okay? If someone's laughing while you're crying, you definitely have the right to say, grow up, get some humanity about yourself. What's wrong with you that you're laughing at someone that's grieving? Start putting people in their place because I guarantee they won't have a problem putting you in yours. And you don't have
Oh
to answer
no.
the call. Go on, Ali.
No, I agree with you. This was something completely different aside from the crime, but I think that's why I said I don't know if this is a God's way of saying you have to be involved because just like you said they would correct me quick without hesitation. I completely agree because one of my cousins, um, and this is the weird thing, we're never in the same room at the same time, but we're always saying the same exact thing. And we don't even talk to each other like that. He told a couple of people in the family, yeah, they don't never do that to you. They always do it to so and so. And, just to agree to that, yeah, certain relatives don't do it to other relatives. And, I find it very interesting because I'm the least crazy, but in reality, I could outdo the ones that have a criminal record behind their name. And I'm just like, I have a connection with God. Maybe this is the reason why I spare people. Because I know if I do one thing, it's going to amplify something worse on my end. So that's the conflict, I guess, within myself. But, it's Chad's turn. I'm going to be quiet.
You've been quiet for too long, Ali, on certain things. Make sure you stand up for yourself. You have a right to say that this is not something you want to talk about. You don't have to answer all these calls either. Okay? You have a right. Okay? Chad, go on. Thank you for your patience.
I honestly forgot what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
Hilarious. Well, we were talking about only child, and then after the only child syndrome thingy, um, we just kind of free fell into Alia going back to what we talked about previously. So go on, Alia. You unmuted your mic. It's totally fine. You know.
Uh, Sorry to interrupt. I think when I told Chad about how she reminded me of Uncle Phil's situation, that whole holler and scream about moving out, that's when she raised her hand up. But I don't know if that was to comment on the fact that
Oh
that's what.
yeah, yeah. I put it in the comments. Me and my mom. Thank you, Aaliyah. Me and my mom is constantly been going back and forth for I don't even know, like almost a month, probably all this year, honestly, about me moving out, when I'm gonna move out, how I'm gonna move out, if I'm gonna move out. It's been a constant debate.
Yeah, and that's where I think it's funny because when you do move out, she's gonna, or actually closer to the day you move out, she's gonna probably say, "I don't want you to leave. I don't want you to leave," and then you'll say, "No, I have to leave." And then she's gonna do something psychologically funny, just like, well, not psychologically funny, but it was funny in the show. Oh, I have a silver lining in my dark cloud, and it's so and so. They need me, so you go ahead, cause I don't need you. And when that silver lining moves out and they're all alone, that's when it becomes a sad situation. And next thing you know, all of them move back in. Well, all y'all move back in, and it's like, oh, I got my family again. Hearing all that chaos and confusion. It's mine. Leave me alone. Slamming doors. And they probably, your mother's probably gonna be sitting there in the room just smiling and grinning because she got all y'all back into the house again. But that's just the weirdness of our old school generational peoples.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good that we can all learn how to relate with one another. That's that Kindred Chaos. That's how I came up with Kindred Chaos, y'all, for our brand name. We be having a lot of Kindred Chaos going on. And that's okay. That's okay. That Kendrick chaos is something. I tell you. I tell you. We can all understand one another. If people take the time out to actually listen, to understand, and not to reply, we can all have Kendrick chaos. We can all have understanding, bring awareness, and change the path of our lives and the lives of others in the future generations. And that's what I want for all of us. Is healthy change, being able to express ourselves freely, be able to grieve properly, to be able to have healthy coping mechanisms. I think people only go to bad coping mechanisms when they don't have a healthy choice. I'll definitely rather be able to talk about my issues than drink them, than have a hangover in the morning or for 3 days. You know, so that's why we do what we do at the wind down and the sit down, so you can have the safe space to talk. I think that the sit down and wind down is a bit like therapy. It's therapeutic for most of us. It's kind of like a chakra healing as well. I think it's a few things that be going on at the wind down and the sit down. All positive things, however. Do anyone else want to
Matchmaking too, apparently.
have? Sad. Well, what better place to meet people if we all about community and growth and positivity and healing. But yeah, I'll say
I'm
because
just saying.
over the past 4 years of doing the wind down, I promise you, been many matches made at the wind down, and most of them are going strong. Okay, even friendships, but definitely the matchmaking. That was a good way to lighten this up, Shad. Because I do feel like this has been a little heavy, but needed though. This set was needed. Okay, grieving is needed. Standing up for yourself is needed. Having a safe space to vent and talk about how you feel is needed. Okay? Your feelings are valid. Your healing is necessary. Your future shall be better for it. Okay, so Alia, start standing up for yourself. No more being a bigger person. No more letting people slide. Okay? No more. Tonight we say no more. You're no one's punching bag. Tonight we say no more. All right. I guess the real issue would be sometimes when to address the issue. Probably right then and there. No, don't forget. No, you didn't forget. Because I'm telling you right now, you're not going to talk to me like that ever again. Did you hear me? You're not going to ever talk to me like that again. Get it together. All right. The audacity of some people. We have to fight for ourselves if no one else will. Okay? For sure. Well, ladies, we're going to wrap this up. I am not feeling too well. I'm going to take some medicine, take a shower, and lay it down. Okay? I appreciate all of you. Thank you all for your vulnerability and transparency tonight, and thank you for always giving time and care for the community. May you all be blessed for it. You know how we end the wind down. So I'll start. Lady Antoinette, I'm proud of you. You pushed through even though you were feeling sick. You still got up and took care of your kids, and you hosted the wind down. I'm proud of you. Keep up the good work. You got this, girl. Anyone else?
Chad, you're making the necessary steps every day, and I'm proud of you.
I'm proud that y'all are all healthy, happy women in everyday life, whether y'all realize it or not. Um, I'm happy to continue to prosper the best way I can in small increments. And I'm just so happy that all of you guys are continually coming here and just being a part of something therapeutic. Just like a couple of comedians have said, stand up is their therapy. I guess wind down and sit downs are therapy. Free at that one. But I digress.
Um, I did 100 squats today, and I'm proud of myself. Go me. I'm big this back this summer. Be fine for winter. That's it.
Hilarious. Did you say you're going to unbig your back for the summer?
And be fine. Be fine for winter. And be fine for winter. You know, if people get fine for summer, I'm gonna be fine for winter. Ain't nobody gonna see it. It's all right.
You said you're going to unbig your back. You know what? I'm done. I needed
I
that laugh.
I just gotta stay away from brunch. That's it. If I can stay away from brunch, I'm working too much to go to brunch. So there's that. That'll work.
I mean, I can help you. I can motivate you to do that.
What? Go to brunch?
Both statements. Unbig your back end, go to lunch.
You know something y'all can do together that make sure both of y'all stay in shape?
Bye, lady.
Okay. I'm
Exactly what you
telling
was
you.
gonna say.
I'm telling you, I was in the best shape of my life.
Only you would say that, lady.
Hey, listen, I was in the best shape of my life when I was carrying that in my purse in my book bag, baby. Do you hear me? I was in the best shape of my life.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Well, I'll take that into consideration.
Yeah. Work it, baby. Work it out. I appreciate you all. I love connecting with you all every Wednesday and Sunday. And we're looking forward to Shad's Fridays. Okay. Until next time, Be well. Make sure you're giving yourself grace, okay? We are the only one who have to sleep with our bodies, our thoughts, and feelings. So be easy on yourself, okay? Till next time, good night.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, everyone. Be
Night.
safe.
Good night.